Did I just break a $70 Marvel Legends figure while being careful? But the way this Gamerverse Gargantos got damaged isn't what you expect. Let's find out. Before we get into the details of what went wrong and some tips on how to assemble the figure properly, here are some packaging details. Shuma Gorath or Gargantos comes in a windowless packaging. The figure alone is a little over 800 grams, a little bit lighter compared to the Gamerverse Juggernaut. On the sides of the box is an arcade art of Shuma Gorath or Gargantos. It would have been nice if it's a connecting art, just like what they did in the Gamerverse Juggernaut packaging. And just like the Gamerverse Juggernaut packaging, we have the most posterized figure in this wave, Silver Samurai, defeated by Gargantos, Juggernaut, and Wolverine. Here is a short read up, pause it right now if you want to have a read. I was curious, what if Hasbro gave Gargantos a windowed packaging, and here it is. It actually looks alright. It's not a perfect setup as what they would do with Archangel or other figures with extra limbs. Maybe instead of the generic arcade background, they could have replaced it with art of Gargantos and his tentacles, so that it's not that obvious that his tentacles are detached. Unboxing it, there are two plastic trays. The first plastic tray contains the tentacles or the limbs with a curved ending. Be careful because the small Gargantos can fall off easily when you get it off. Here we have the head and the other three tentacles. It is important to note that these tentacles with some S-like curve, they hinge differently compared to the other one. This one's hinge up and down. So you can see right there, that's an up and down hinge. While the other one with the curved one can hinge forward and back. It is important to remember that because it's hard or almost impossible to detach the tentacles or the limbs from Gargantos. I did thought about running an experiment of removing the tentacles from an assembled Gargantos, but I was being careful not to break a $70 figure. But I eventually did some damage, more of that later on. Just like marriage, once you attach the tentacles, that's forever, so you need to decide wisely. I wanted to give myself equal opportunity to be able to hinge the figure up and down and forward and back, so I did it in a manner that it alternates. These ones are the ones with curved ends and they can hinge forward and back. Before you copy what I did, I just want to warn you, it's quite different with the product shots. I later found out that the tentacles with the curved end, they are the bottom tentacles, while the tentacles on top would be the one with an S shape. No specific instructions was given by Hasbro, so I assume you can do whatever you want. What I did allows me to make the three bottom tentacles parallel to one another like that. I assume that this will help me get a more stable standing position for the figure. While the top one, it can hinge up and down so you can position it left or right. While this one's hinge forward as I would think it should be. Let me know in the comments below, did you do a mix and match or were you systematic just like how I thought about it? Looking at the figure alone, you would think that there is no top or bottom part for this figure until I noticed something at the back. Based on the packaging and the product shots, this means this one is the top part of his eye while the other ones are the bottom. The body of Gargantos, where the eye is connected to, has a rubbery texture just like his limbs. So when you attach it, it would look seamless. It doesn't look off wherein one part is rubber and the other part is hard plastic. Looking at the back of his eyes, this is still a rubbery texture with some sculpted details, deformities of his skin, and then you would notice there is something printed on top, or rather is it supposed to be the bottom? So I guess this is the bottom part instead of the top part. it's quite different from the product shots. Just like what I mentioned a while ago, there were no specific strict instructions to determine which one is the top and the bottom of the figure and how you attach the limbs, so you can do whatever you want. It's barely noticeable, only because I zoomed in that I noticed there was some printed details and I can't seem to really pull it out. I am worried of using hot water or hot air because it might damage whatever this is, because it's rubbery, it's not the usual hard plastic, so I'll leave it as is. For this review, I was thinking of doing the same thing I did with Juggernaut, Captain America vs. Venom, just recreate Gargantos moves, but it's really difficult. Even this particular pose, I cannot pull it off. And because I try so hard to do good in my reviews, or probably just carelessness, that is when I caused a damage on a $70 Marvel Legends Gamerverse Gargantos action figure. Consider this a warning and something that you should not do. Don't do what I'm doing right now, wherein Gargantos is too far from me that I'm trying to extend my hands and position his limbs with a little bit of force. That's when I started causing damage on his limbs or tentacles. It looks harmless, really. I'm just articulating his limbs like per normal. But there is some force or pressure when I try to do this, because I really wanted to simulate him having crossed arms. So that's when I did not notice that I might be pushing it too much. If you are not new to the channel, you would know by now that
I'm Juggernaut!
And I have a bad track record. And I'm not talking about this particular one. I'm talking about the bad track record of breaking figures while doing a review. So what is this damage I'm talking about? It requires zooming in. And this particular limb, you can see some scratches right there. They're not dents. Thankfully, they're not dents. They're actually paint removed. So there is no specific like scratch marks. It's just the paint has been removed. Although because of the force that I applied pulling the tentacle, this thing seems to break open. I may need to glue it in again. So it's unfortunate that I broke. Can you say that I did break a $70 figure based on this? Let me know in the comments below. If that precautionary real-life story is helpful, I hope you give this review a boost by clicking that like button, clicking the hype button, and sharing this with our fellow collectors so they don't repeat the same mistakes I did in this review. And of course, I appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. For places where the figures in this review might still be available, I left some links in the description below. Since Gargantos or Shuma Gorath is like an octopus, I was curious whether he can fully wrap his tentacles around another figure. One thing I noticed in Instagram is people just hang the other figures along the hooked end. That do work for lighter or female figures. What about heavier ones? This is where you need to learn how to manipulate his limbs. You need to hold Gargantos up close and use your two hands to bend it fully, like this way. You need to bring Gargantos closer to your heart. I mean, literally, this $70 figure needs to be close to your heart when you bend his tentacles or limbs. If you do that with a little bit of care in terms of handling him, making sure that the hinging parts of his limb doesn't fully hit his body, you really don't want to experience the same damage I caused this Gargantos figure. Then he can hold up to 6 figures. Of course, that's lying down. He can't stand, or maybe he can. I haven't tried that. Maybe I'll try later. Another question is whether this Marvel Legends Gargantos is game accurate in terms of the size. He looks huge. You can wear him as a mask tonight for Halloween when you do your trick or treats. He's that large. The Marvel Legends Gamerverse Gargantos might be too large for a Marvel vs. Capcom display. Here he is battling Spider-Man, which is the same size as Captain America right here. You can see the huge difference in terms of size. Another good game size comparison is with the Marvel Legends Incredible Hulk, which is supposed to be larger than Gargantos. Just to be clear, I have no problems with his size. I'm okay with larger figures. I just want to point out the difference from the games. I do wonder if this Gamerverse Gargantos is the same Gargantos they are referring to the Marvel Studios movie Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The Lego box right here calls this guy Gargantos. Although a bit different in terms of aesthetics, but in terms of size, it's the same. In the comic books, Gargantos also appears, or Shuma Gorath I mean, large, like as big as buildings. So while this Gargantos is marketed as a Gamerverse figure based on the Marvel vs. Capcom game, he actually works perfectly for a comic book figure collector. But if you really want him to become a Gamerverse or Marvel vs. Capcom 2 Shuma Gorath, then you will have to use 7-inch scale figures, just like the Hulk, which is slightly larger, I guess, compared to Gargantos right here. The size seems to be just right. Here is a 7-inch scale McFarlane Toys The Witcher, a horse, a 7-inch scale horse. And here is what he looks like beside it. Just to show again the difference in terms of animals, here is a 6-inch scale G.I. Joe polar bear. And you see how huge Gargantos is. I think this is just about right if you really want a comic book type of Shuma Gorath. I've been talking about Shuma Gorath's size for so long, it's time to measure him. Stretch out wide his arms, he would measure 60 centimeters or 23.6 inches tall. So just to be sure, if I measure only one of his arms or tentacle is 30 centimeters or 11.8 inches long. Here is the new Marvel Legends Gargantos or Shuma Gorath, besides other Marvel Legends Gamerverse superheroes. The game accurate height Wolverine, War Machine, Captain America which I reviewed recently, Psylocke, Marrow, and Cable, which is part of the Sabu Build-A-Figure wave. Next up is some Marvel vs. Capcom villains, Omega Red, Juggernaut, Silver Samurai, Blackheart Build-A-Figure, Thanos, and Venom. Venom was still considered a villain during the 90s, not an anti-hero. Here is the Marvel Legends Gargantos besides Jada Toys Street Fighters, Ken, Chun-Li, Sagat, Ryu, Cammy, Blanka, Dalsim, M. Bison, and Guile. Executive replicas and loose collectors, Red, Sonya, Mabuhay ang Likhang Pinoy, Darna by Halimaw Sculptures and Loose Collector, Medicom Toy MAFEX, Gambit, which was essential for this review, alongside with Deadpool, Mezco 112 from the movie Deadpool and Wolverine. And also we have Dogpool. 6-inch scale versus 7-inch scale size comparison, Marvel celebrating 80 years Hulk, and the 7-inch scale Diamond Select Toys Marvel Select Immortal Hulk or the Rampaging Hulk. Marvel Legends Gargantos is slightly shorter than the 26.3-inch tall Marvel Legends HasLab Sentinel. Before we take a closer look at Gargantos and perform the articulation, by now, have you guessed which stand did I use to hold the little guy right here? I tried dupe, it won't work, it won't stand. It's just gonna fall, this thing is quite heavy compared to dupe. So The Marvel Legends stand doesn't work. How about the stronger Jada Toys ones? Unfortunately, the hole is too small. There's no way that I can fit that thing in. One accessory stand that I remember can hold heavier accessories like this kinetic cards is from MAFEX. So this is the MAFEX Gambit kinetic card stand, attaching the little guy here, which I believe is still Gargantos or Shuma Gorath. I'll tell you why later. So there you go. It balanced perfectly. In terms of craftsmanship, this is one of the best looking Marvel Legends toys. If you did not know this is a Marvel Legends figure, you'd be surprised to know it is one. You can really use this guy as a costume tonight for Halloween because of how real looking his eyes is, and you can move it around. You can close his eyes, close it a little bit, look to the side. It's really an impressive work by Hasbro. The body has some subtle paint wash, and the shades of greens are not that far off. They're almost the same. It's really an excellent looking figure, and there are some sculpted stuff around here like this one. I do worry though, if I use heat or anything, those will just rift off. It happened to me once when I heated a figure and the plastic did rip off. So just be careful. A while ago, I did cause some damage to this figure. I'll just say that it's a beauty mark because it's alright. It's not that bad looking. The 6 limbs of Gargantos are bendy wired. There are some sculpted like holes there, like deformities on his skin. I assume there is really no front and back in terms of how you display these limbs. I thought that cut there is a swivel, but it doesn't swivel. It swivel where it is attached. Gargantos comes with a smaller version of himself. This is not articulated. His eyes doesn't move. These spiky bits. It's quite heavy, and there's a hole right there where you can peg in a stand, which I showed you a while ago. This is the only best that I can do for in-game moves. It is when he fires away multiple versions of himself. The new Marvel Legends Gamerverse Gargantos or Shuma Gorath is easily one of Hasbro's most impressive releases for 2025, and honestly, it's a big surprise. This isn't a HasLab or a made-to-order exclusive Gargantos. Shuma Gorath is available in regular retail for both comic book collectors and Gamerverse fans. Even Doctor Strange movie fans might want to grab this one. It's definitely a space-eating monster on the shelf, but it's such an eye-catching collection piece. And speaking of that, I hope your eye caught the playlist on the top right corner of your screen. Check out my other Gamerverse figures reviews after this one. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this review useful. If you do, please share it with your fellow collectors. Give this review a like, subscribe to my channel, and if you can, I appreciate if you give this review a hype. Hope to see you in the next one.